Hey, everybody. Welcome to our Money Success Podcast. I'm your host, Maria Brophy, and today we're going to talk about how to get confidence in your pricing. And we're also going to talk about when it's time to raise your prices. How do you know? The reason, I wanted to talk about this today is in my last podcast, I was talking about being a good receiver. And if you can receive the gifts that the world gives you, whether it's money or other forms of abundance, if you can happily and joyfully receive those gifts and be appreciative of them without saying, no, 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 I don't deserve it. And instead you say, thank you, thank you, thank you. You will bring greater abundance into your life. Now, how is that possible? It's because of the decisions you make. It's because of the way you communicate with people when you feel confident and when you're a gracious receiver. That in your communications, whether written or verbal or otherwise, you will instill confidence in your customers. Okay? So stay with me on this. Here's one way to get confidence in your pricing and receiving money, and that is to have consistent pricing structure. Now, for some artists, this is really tough, and understandably so. I still have a little bit of challenge with pricing art, and the reason it's so challenging, first of all, just to give you a good reason to know that you're not alone in this is because art is so subjective. Okay. What is valuable, what is considered highly valuable to one group of people is not to other groups of people. You can have one artist charging $50,000 a painting for very similar quality and technique and skill as another artist selling a $500 painting. And how is that possible? Well, it's due to so many different factors. One is where you're selling your work, who you're selling it to, what market you are targeting. Another is where you're geographically located. Another is how well you're known for what you do. And another thing that comes into play here with your pricing is what you choose to receive. Now, that might sound simple, but I know this photographer who, right when he got out of art school, he said, I'm not taking any job less than $10,000. And so he waited tables and turned down every single photography project he got until he got one for $10,000. And that was how he started his photography career. He had decided that he was a $10,000 and above professional. Okay. Now, a lot of other people, most of us don't do that. Most of us don't have the confidence to do that, or I don't know what you call that. I don't know. I mean, I'm really impressed by that. Most of us just say, oh, let me see what I can get, and I'm going to start there. And there's nothing wrong with that either. Okay. It's totally okay. But I really believe that whatever your intention is, so let's say your intention is to work with people who mostly buy from the luxury market, then everything you do will be based on the luxury market, including your pricing and the quality of the materials you use, the quality of your business card. You're not going to ever get cheap business cards. Luxury market won't put up with that. You have to get the really expensive satin ones with the rounded corners that feel good in your hand. Every little detail. However, if you're going after like the farmer's market, then you're going to use less expensive materials. You're going to do things a little cheaper or a lot cheaper, and your prices will reflect that. I do want to say this. If you are brand new to selling your artwork, what I want to recommend is that you start low. Don't start out with crazy high prices because it's going to take a while for you to get momentum. And a lot of people get discouraged when they don't sell anything. It takes a lot of determination to not get discouraged. So I always recommend the artists that I work with when they're brand new, they've never sold anything. I always recommend that they start lower and then over time raise their prices because you want to build up your name, you want to build up your clientele, and you want to build up your own confidence level. And that confidence level really comes from part of it comes from making sales, right? So that's one thing. Now let's say you start out and you're starting out with lower prices. Now, what are lower prices, Maria? Give me an example of a lower price. I'm going to sidestep the conversation for a moment and I'm going to say this. Pricing is so relative. What one person thinks is expensive, another person thinks is cheap. So you really need to keep that in mind. But on the low end to me is paintings under $500. Okay. And I know a lot of artists that start out selling $50 paintings, $100 paintings. Now they're small paintings, 5-inch by 7-inch or, 10-inch by 10-inch, whatever. But that is a good way to get started and get your momentum going. Let's see, where was I? Give me a second. I was going off on a tangent and I lost where I was. Okay. So when do you raise your prices? You raise your prices when you start making sales and you see a little movement in your art sales. Okay. That's when you start raising your prices. Now I'm going to tell you a story about an artist that I coach, and she does this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful like macrame art that goes above the couch. And she had told me that she had so many commissions that she was 3 months out. She couldn't handle all the work she had. I recommended that she hire somebody to help her with a lot of stuff that someone else could do. And she said, well, I'm not really totally making enough to hire someone. I said, well, then you are definitely not charging enough money. So I told her to significantly raise her prices in some cases by 50%. So if she was selling something for $2,000, I told her to raise it to $3,000. And she didn't like that idea at first. She was very uncomfortable with it. But I said, look, it's time to raise your prices when you are so busy that you're working 7 days a week and you have commissions for the next 3 months. You need to charge more and take less commissions and or hire help to do a lot of the stuff that someone else can do to free you up. Nobody should be working 7 days a week. Never work 7 days a week. That is so bad for your health and your mind and your creativity, and it's bad for your business. Don't ever do that. So she did listen to me. She was uncomfortable with it, but she listened to me. She said, okay, I'm going to do it. And of course it was, I want to say, I'm looking at my notes here because I took notes on this. It was about a month later and she gave me an update and she said she was shocked that nobody complained about her raising her prices. And it didn't change much by way of how much she sold. So it was perfect timing for her to raise her prices. And I told her to continue to raise them until things slow down a little bit, because you don't want to be working that hard. I mean, I am a big believer in working hard, but not for months and months and months on end. I mean, every now and again when you got a big project, but it's really not sustainable, and your body will break down and your mind will break down and your spirit will break down over time. We raise our prices at a minimum every year by 10%. but usually about every quarter by anywhere from 10 to 20%, especially with larger clients, the larger like commercial projects that we do for illustrations. Sometimes, heck, just recently I raised prices by like 40% because Drew's work has just gotten so in demand. And I realized that even though I felt like I had somewhat perfected our pricing, that we could get away with charging more, and we did. And while it does leave some people saying, hey, I can't afford it, other people can. And so it gives him more time to play and work on his own projects. So I hope this was helpful to someone out there. If you enjoyed this podcast, please give me a follow, hit subscribe, leave me a review or a comment depending on where you're listening to this, because this podcast is posted on multiple platforms. So, and thank you. Thanks for listening. I appreciate it. I really love sharing all this information. It gives me a purpose in life and it makes me happy and it's kind of fun. So, have a great day, everybody. I'll see you on the next one.